Welcome. The purpose of this presentation is to explain the challenges Central Bedfordshire Council faces as a result of the national deficit, what this means for us as a council and for you as Central Bedfordshire residents. The new coalition government is clear that they intend to tackle Britain's economic deficit. The 20th of October was a significant day for public services. The government announced a spending review which confirmed the level of cuts to the public sector to help reduce the national deficit. This included a 28% cut in government funding to councils. Central Bedfordshire Council, in common with other councils across the country, has been reviewing its budget and services as it prepares to contribute to the savings targets. We will have 28% less government grant over 4 years. So what does this really mean? Well, let's first explain how the council is funded and how we spend this money. The council's money comes from two core sources, 29% from government grant and 71% from council tax. A government grant is calculated on a national formula which gives more priority to those areas considered to be more deprived. This approach means that different councils across the country get different levels of grant from the government. In Central Bedfordshire, we get a relatively small amount of funding through central government, which means we have greater reliance on council tax. However, we do provide value for money. When you look at our neighbouring unitary councils and compare the amount that we spend per head of population, we spend considerably less than our neighbours. We are a multi-million-pound business providing a wide range of services 24 hours a day, every day. Some of these services you'll be well aware of, such as waste services, including collecting your household rubbish and recycling, maintaining the roads and pavements, including gritting them in the winter, providing adult social care, and this includes looking after the elderly, adults with disabilities and adults with learning disabilities. And we also provide children's services, which includes supporting schools to raise educational attainment and protecting vulnerable children. But we also do a lot of other things, such as subsidising some public transport, administering benefits, providing social housing, dealing with planning applications and enforcement, providing libraries and leisure centres, cleaning the streets, removing graffiti, fly tipping and abandoned cars, providing consumer advice through our trading standards service, and we protect the public through our environmental health and enforcement teams. And we also register births, deaths and marriages, and the list goes on. This year we are spending 177 million of your pounds on this wide range of services. This money is spent in 4 main areas. Almost half of our budget is spent on adult social care and children's services. 10% is spent on refuse collection and recycling, and 7% is spent on highways and transport. Everything else, such as housing, planning, leisure services and street cleaning, etc., makes up the remaining 36%. A common misconception is that councils control the amount of money that schools get and how they spend that money. The money for schools comes from central government to Central Bedfordshire Council and then goes straight out to schools. We do not take anything from this pot of money. It is ring-fenced for the schools. A small proportion of our council budget is spent on other support to schools. The council is comprised of elected members, and the current administration is committed to reducing the burden of council tax for everybody in Central Bedfordshire. This won't be easy when we expect less government grant and increasing demands on our services. So, given the diversity of our services, what does the national budget policy mean for Central Bedfordshire? We will get less money from the government, at least 28% less government grant. We will not raise more money through council tax. We are committed to not raising council tax. We provide needs-led services which we cannot stop delivering. For example, adult social care and child protection. We have seen increased demand in our services and fully expect this to continue. We have an ageing population, which means each year more and more elderly people will need our support. There has already been an increase in child protection assessments, and we expect more, and the recession itself will increase demand on our services and benefits. At this stage, we are looking at having to save £36 million over 3 years. However, There is more detail to come over the next few months about exactly how much money local councils will get from central government. So there are some big challenges ahead, but we are confident we can face them. We have some good foundations to build on. We already provide value for money. We're one of the lowest cost authorities in the area when compared to our neighbours in Bedford, Milton Keynes and Luton. We saved £10 million in our first year as a new unitary authority, and we're on track to save £12 million this year. We've already cut 20% of the senior management team, and we have some strong partnerships with other local public services such as the police, health and fire service. Setting the budget for the council is a complex business, but our approach needs to remain strategic and clear. We are working to 3 core principles: rigorous financial management and driving out every efficiency from the back office, being responsible and looking after the most vulnerable, and also being realistic about the fact that we cannot continue to do everything we've done in the past, either because of resources or because we want to develop and adapt our services. We are already working on some key actions to improve efficiency. We are reducing senior management further across the council, reducing back office staff in services such as finance, communications, performance, project management and overview and scrutiny support. We will be increasing efficiency through better energy use, restructuring some services and reviewing other services such as payroll and replacing illuminated street bollards with reflective ones. We will be using new technology such as the web to increase efficiency. Providing services online is cheaper than face-to-face or telephone, and we will be developing our website to unlock these savings. We'll be looking at getting better deals through smarter procurement, for example on buying things like stationery, printing, venue hire, temporary staff and travel costs, and making better use of block contracted services in social care, and renegotiating some of our contracts with suppliers. We'll also be reducing the number of councillors from 66 in central Bedfordshire to 59, and therefore reducing the councillor allowance fund. We will also be looking at raising our income through our charges and fees, for example, planning fees and parking permits. We are very aware that we have truly vulnerable customers and will protect the services that these people need. However, we are going to have to refocus services to target our support to those who are truly needy. For example, our support to schools in terms of educational welfare support, that's pupil attendance, special educational needs support and parenting support will all now be focusing on supporting the most vulnerable. We will continue our work to transform social care services, such as modernising day services for adults with learning disabilities, to provide more choice and control to our customers, reduce the number of residential care placements through providing more support services to enable people to stay at home for longer, harmonise housing services, review the support we provide to adults with learning disabilities to help them get into work, and transport provision will be reviewed. Ultimately, we anticipate that there will be a need for some difficult decisions about services that we can simply no longer afford. We will need to rationalise some services, such as street lighting, response to cold calling reports, manned CCTV cameras, response to large fly tipping, household waste recycling centre opening hours, and street cleaning. We will need to change the funding of some discretionary services, such as music lessons. Schools or parents will be asked to pay full cost for these, and there will be some services which are no longer viable, such as Biggleswade and Houghton Regis Leisure Centre, mobile library service, and funding Orchestra Live and Arts Aloud. The new coalition government has been talking about a new big society concept, the idea of relying less on the council to do things and communities doing more for themselves. For example, schools could arrange their own school crossing patrols, schools could run homework clubs, communities could run youth services and rely less on the council to do these. We are keen to hear from you what ideas and suggestions you have and what support you need from us to do more. We've been talking to residents as we've been developing our draft budget strategy. We felt it was important to understand what our residents want to see protected and what services residents felt could be stopped or reduced to an acceptable level. We have taken various suggestions forward into our draft budget strategy. It was really helpful to have these early discussions with residents. By the end of these discussions, we were all in agreement on one thing, that the decisions would not be easy. Since the CSR announcement, more information about the reduction in government financial support to local authorities has been provided, and significantly, we now expect cuts to be front-loaded. This means that the cuts will be more severe in the first and second years of the 4-year term covered by the CSR. This information, together with detailed work on clarifying next year's budget requirement, have led to a number of additional financial pressures emerging. Because of this, the Executive Committee have considered further savings options to those already proposed in the November Strategy Report. Despite the additional budget challenges ahead, members of the Council have reiterated their commitment to avoid any increase in council tax. To achieve this, the Council will continue to be rigorous in driving out every penny of avoidable costs. However, the size of the savings challenge will require that some difficult proposals are considered. As with the initial budget strategy, the new proposals combine a range of efficiency savings, some service reductions, and options to deliver services in collaboration with other agencies or community groups. Some of the savings to be derived from efficiencies include a further review of terms and conditions for council employees, streamlining domiciliary care and assessment and resettlement services for adults with a learning disability, bringing together waste development and environmental protection teams, further reductions to support services such as communications and performance management. Proposed service reductions include stopping the sports development and play services, closing household waste recycling centres for 2 days a week when they're least used, not renewing the contract for the leisure centre in Sandy Upper School, reviewing how libraries are managed and resourced, and transferring the management of public conveniences to town councils. In areas such as the music service and the youth service, where service reductions had already been identified, there are now new proposals to achieve the savings more quickly. Further review of the proposals will be conducted by our overview and scrutiny committees, and public and customer and stakeholder engagement will continue. On the 20th of October, the Treasury announced the spending review, which confirmed 28% cuts to council funding. On the 2nd of November, our draft budget strategy, so how we propose to meet the budget gap, was approved by the Council's executive. From November, the Council's overview and scrutiny committees will start to review and scrutinise the draft budget strategy proposals. On the 7th of December, the Executive approved the extra proposals for consideration to meet the savings required in the first and second years of the CSR period. During December, we expect an announcement called the Local Government Finance Settlement to come from Central Government, which will give us more detail about the grant we can expect from Central Government. Only when we have the definitive information from Government will we be able to develop the draft budget. We hope to present this to the January Executive meeting. On the 8th of February, the final budget will be considered by the Council's Executive for approval. On the 24th of February, the final budget will be considered by full Council. In March, the Council tax will be set for 2011-12. So there are some difficult decisions ahead, but we can and should be confident in our future because we have a strong track record and we are clear in our approach. We will keep you informed of progress and outcomes through our magazine, New Central, or our website, www.centralbedfordshire.gov.uk, and our community discussion website, www.letstalkcentral.com. We are interested in hearing your feedback on our proposals, and you can do this by joining in the discussion on Let's Talk Central about the proposals and about your big society ideas.